Hi, welcome back to Three MFAers. We're going to be talking about The Shining, but first, Brandon just reminded me of an old feud that we have regarding the Yu-Gi-Oh mythos.
I was hoping that this would come up.
Brandon, do you want to explain?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain?
I don't know if you guys are aware of Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's I don't know. Would you even call it an anime? I mean, anyways, it's along the same lines as like Pokemon, card game, all of that. So he's got this pyramid upside down medallion thing that when he rubs it, like the magic lamp, he goes inside of it and his spirit buddy comes out and takes over and is way better at playing poker than he is. It's pretty sweet. Caleb doesn't believe that's how it happens, and that's the problem.
Wait.
First off.
Yeah, it's the Millennium Puzzle, Brandon. No. What did you... No, wait. You're changing... No, that's not what
a metaphor
happened.
For the
you said...
For the no.
This is not what the argument was. Now he's just doing this to make me
Caleb,
upset, and he knows it's working.
You tell us what the argument is, okay?
Yeah, he has a tendency to make Caleb mad.
It was about... Hold on. Wait. Now you're gaslighting me, bro.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This is... You said... We were talking... No, okay. I forget what you said, but what I said, which is correct, is that... Oh no! You've got me so flustered. I don't even remember what the argument was. Now. They're both. So it's Yugi and then the Pharaoh are both souls. They both have their own soul, and you were
right.
And what happens is whoever is in the control, quote unquote, I'm using finger quotes, of the body is like in the body, and the other soul is in the pyramid.
And I was like, that's not cool because you're trapped in a goddamn puzzle the whole time.
No, you said that's not what it was, and you said something else, and then you got me all angry, and then, 4 months later, you were like, oh, I was just kidding the whole time, I don't even care.
Yeah, I mean, obvious. I can't even explain to you what the actual argument was, because the whole time it was a bit. That's why we can't remember what it was.
But I had been, in my head for 4 months being, really angry for no reason, because I am clearly
Yeah, but also, that was, the beginning of school, so you didn't know me that well yet. So you didn't know that it was just a bit.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess that's true because you didn't know that I would spiral.
No, I had no idea.
Mentally.
All I know is that my experience with the card game is that it's a lot easier to lose life points in real life than on the cartoon, apparently.
Oh, it's
So that's all I'm
saying. Well, in real life, you have 8,000 instead of 4,000. So, the games go longer. But obviously, when you have a half an hour to, do your duels, you have to cut that shit down.
And you only could do, 2 turns an episode? 3 turns an episode?
Yeah, well, it's like Dragon Ball rules, because you have to spend, a bunch of time talking about, friendship and shit, so...
Yeah, it's pretty sick. That was one of those fads that came on fast. I would start seeing Yu-Gi-Oh cards around everywhere, and then you see the show as a kid, and you're like, okay, start to put all this together, and then it's everywhere. And you're like, all right, so this is the thing now. Fantastic.
Yeah,
it's funny because I loved the I loved the card game. I didn't play the Pokemon card game. I collected the cards for Pokemon, but I played Yu-Gi-Oh with my brothers, and then same thing with when Beyblade came out. I had those tops, I got cuts from those tops.
Yeah, did you guys
they actually had metal on them?
Did you guys collect Bit Beasts?
I did.
Because I did.
Yeah.
I did not do that.
No, that's what the Beyblade, the little monsters on the Beyblades were called. The little stickers.
Oh, we just used the tops. We didn't I didn't collect.
That was the whole point.
That was also the fastest one to get banned from schools. Beyblade,
yeah, there's so much
because they were actual tops that went so fast.
And did you guys have the plastic domes?
Yeah, we did. And we battled tops.
Battle tops.
At hockey rinks, they'd always have vending machines with stupid crap in them, right? And once Beyblades became a thing, they started selling in hockey rink vending machines. You know the middle metal piece? The weight?
The weight,
the metal ring. They they started selling ones in all these vending machines that were 3 times the size and had spikes coming out of the side and things like that. And then that would fit onto your thing. So because Canada, and it was at a hockey rink every day, you go and buy a bunch of them, and then yours is immediately heavier than everyone else's, and because you're talking about tops, you win. So it's just this is sick.
What I will say, out of all of those television cartoons that were just advertisements for toys, I will say I think Pokemon, in my opinion, is the best, like, universe, like, world building with, like, the most memorable characters. But I thought that Digimon was the best show. Like, best, like, narrative experience. Like, the first 3 seasons of Digimon I remember being as a kid, like, actually, like, glued to the screen. Like, I can't, like... This is,
when
like,
those crests
dramatic.
came out and, like,
it's like
Skull Greymon?
But,
Skull Greymon was, like, when he... Oh, I loved it.
But Beyblade has the fucking best theme song. That song slaps. It's so good.
I'll have to look it up.
And then you get into New Age anime. Like, me and my brothers are watching through Attack on Titan right now. And it's so different.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, I've seen it before, but goddamn, the intensity compared to, like, a Beyblade. It's like...
Yeah.
It's like...
I would say the dramatic stakes are higher, for sure.
As if it is the Shining to the Dark Tower, is how I would put it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I feel like the Dark Tower is worse, though. I don't even want to give it that.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say the Dark Tower is as good as Beyblade.
So I want to get into this now, because we watched the Dark Tower last episode. And then this episode we have watched The Shining. Now it feels like the Dark Tower was the way it was because they made that movie way less about the books and way more about this is Stephen King's multiverse. And that's what I'm realizing. I feel like they made that movie a lot more focused on making sure the world knows what Stephen King's multiverse is than on the actual story of the Dark Tower.
Well, that makes sense if what you were saying is true, that it was supposed to be a lead into, like, a television show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so if it was supposed to serve as this, like, pilot of sorts, and then you want to make sure that all the world building is out there, so when people go onto this fucking television show, they can... But then that didn't happen because the movie was so trash.
I found out something the other day, because after watching The Shining, I went on a deep dive into this whole Stephen King multiverse thing. And as we were talking about the Dark Tower, I didn't finish the books. I think I got to, like, 3.5. Caleb.
Yeah.
And I know this was probably a spoiler, and this is why you didn't mention this. In what worlds do you not mention that Stephen King wrote himself as a character and the whole thing folds over itself? Yeah, Josh. Yes, Josh.
Because...
Book 5, spoiler alert for anybody who's listening. Book 5, Stephen King, after having a life-threatening car crash, gives, like, it's like 6 years between the 2 books, between 4 and 5. He writes himself as a character that they save because they have to save him to get to the Dark Tower. And if he dies, their whole story dies. And he's feeding Roland information. So he pulls a meta move and brings it on top of himself where he's in his own multiverse. And I love that, but I don't know how that didn't come up last week when you knew that, Caleb.
Because it's so much better to read it for yourself and be like, excuse me?
Brandon, he did it because of this reaction right here that I'm watching on the screen. Is you going, what the fuck? Why didn't you tell me?
I was so
That is why he didn't tell you.
That is not where I saw it going, especially about, like, the 5th book. I was like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah. Well, that's my thing with Stephen King is obviously he's a very talented writer, and he has kind of created a niche where nobody's, like, really competing with him. Like, he's like the Jay-Z of horror literature. Do you know what I mean?
I got you.
Like, he built an empire. Like, anybody who's, like, trying... You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's like, what, 70 books now? And, like, half of them are the best-known books in America.
More than that, dude. If you count all, like, the short stories and all that. He's created such iconic...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he also is very, like... He's like a psycho, and he's very self-indulgent. Like, that is a very self-indulgent thing to do. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like imposing... Obviously, I want to be a storyteller. We're all storytellers. But, like, imposing, like, that sort of, like, not leaving that to the subtext, being like, I am the savior of the universe. You know what I mean? Like, literally, right. I'm a character in this. And it's just... I'm always just like, what the fuck? And I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know, you know, when we talk about The Shining, when we talk about the movie, I think it'll be interesting to discuss kind of his reaction to it and how he approached... You know, he wanted to approach the story and adapting it, and how him and Kubrick kind of had their little feud.
That's the craziest thing, too, right? It's to have 2 minds like that on a project. Like, it's already a Stephen King book, and then you're throwing Kubrick in there.
Yeah.
So you're just adding like a whole nother, mass of knowledge and wanting to do your own thing. It's very interesting.
Can we take a quick moment though, just to, in case there's new listeners on this, to introduce ourselves just really quick?
Yeah, sorry, we got right into it. I'm Caleb John Cushing. I'm an actor, writer, and filmmaker, and I just moved to Queens, so that's where I live now.
Yay.
And it's very clean.
I love it.
It's very quiet, and I think it'll be nice for my mental health.
I hope so. It's a crazy time. Josh here, director, actor, mover, video game extraordinaire, audio editor now, I guess. After a while, I can put that on the list. I'm here in Inwood, Washington Heights, Inwood area, Manhattan. And yeah, things seem to be relatively quiet now, so it's a good thing.
Brandon McPherson, Toronto, Canada. Play for Team USA. Sorry, that's a miracle callback because that's what it sounded like we were getting into. Hi, I'm Brandon McPherson. I'm from Toronto. Wish I was back in New York with you guys, but not right now because there's a pandemic.
Yeah, this podcast would be a lot easier if we were able to.
Counter argument would be a lot easier if you guys were Canadian.
Counter argument. I agree with Brandon. I don't want to be in America anymore. Mom,
that's fair.
Mom, pick me up from the party. There's Molotov cocktails. I'm scared.
Luckily, with all that happening, it did yesterday. It took a big turn for the positive in terms of protesting. So it's not minus the whole cops blocking people on the Manhattan Bridge to arrest them, but. Other than that, there's
minus that huge imposing on civil liberties. I guess things are going well. Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're barricading. Trump is barricading himself into the White House. I mean, we're on some fucking French Revolution shit, y'all. I mean, it's insane.
I can't tell if I'm I can't wait for that, or if I'm just kind of, because I did protest on Tuesday and it was my first walk, and I had chills as we were walking, like the chants, the support from the traffic. Like we walked from the courthouses up Lafayette, over from Canal Street to Broadway and up to Washington Square Park. And it was it was very inspiring, with all the support. And the only thing I wish is that we get back to the group protests like in the 60s when there was like somebody you could like follow. Like Martin Luther King, somebody who's there that's like the spokesperson, because we would have one person that I would want to hear speak who had something really important to say, but because the group at Washington Square Park was so massive, there would be other chants starting like behind you, and I was like on that cusp, right? So I couldn't hear what they were saying because on their mic they're on their megaphone, but I got caught up in like people chanting around me say his name, George Floyd. And so there's a little bit, it's not organized, and I guess that's just my
Well, I think the difference
thing, but
is
I do wish,
there. I feel like the need for that central figure, and I could be speaking out of my ass, but I feel like that's almost become obsolete with social media and the internet. And I feel like the movement itself of Black Lives Matter is like that central figurehead that people are rallying around all across the world.
Which is better because you can't kill a movement, right? You can't kill an idea, but you can kill a person, as we've seen. So
every single supporter of like
the more widespread which unfortunately it seems incredibly widespread, and it seems like it's taking off all over the world.
Yeah.
I just think it's much.
I also think though that you can't kill a movement, and I think what's great is that even Trump tried to label the movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all just so fucking nuts right now. Everything is crazy.
But it's important though. I think that regardless of where, and this is something that I feel like is different than maybe it has been in the past. Obviously, I wasn't alive back then, so I don't know. But it really seems that regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, I think everybody to some degree agrees that there needs to be change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that how much change or how that change takes place and to the degree of who is culpable and responsible becomes fluid depending on who you ask, but I think no one is happy. And that feels very electric. I mean,
a great example real quick, Caleb, is so I finally made a status after being texted by a friend of mine.
Anybody we know?
Saying, somebody I worked with at a bar, saying, calling me out for not saying anything earlier, right? From my personal experience, I was just trying to figure out what needed to be said, and I talked to my roommate, and just the solidarity, right? The support is what needs to happen, right? So I put out my status, that I do understand that I listened and that I'm there for Black Lives Matter, and this is the movement that needs to happen. What I found out my job is to talk to my relatives. My uncle posted his All Lives Matter post, and then I sent him a nice long message saying, this is not an argument. This is not me trying to point fingers. This is me trying to have a discussion, right? And I said, because the first two sentences were, all lives matter. We need to stop this division between race and class. Now, he's a stark Republican, Fox News watcher, Trump lover, whatever have you. And I thought it was so funny because what he said is so true. We do need to stop the division between class and race. All lives do matter. And I said, that is why I'm marching.
Right.
That's why I am here, and this is so important. And I think it's funny because the lens that he sees it through is trying to degrade and demean and stuff like that. But if the Republicans, the base, sees it from, if you truly mean what you say, that all lives matter, then you would be just as mad that there are still cops out there exercising police brutality. The all lives matter
thing is so dumb in that, look, yes, obviously all lives fucking matter. I assume your uncle's a white guy, right?
Yep.
Yeah, obviously all lives fucking matter, buddy. But at the same time, have you ever, as a white dude, I didn't have a single issue in New York. I was completely comfortable walking around everywhere. That's the whole point. I don't have, it wasn't a problem. I didn't get beat up by cops. That's the exact issue. Yes, obviously all lives matter. There's no fucking issue for white people. It's been fine. It's not about you. It is not, it's not about you. You're fucking fine already.
But I was very,
it's about Black Lives Matter because that's where there's an issue and it needs help and it needs to be put to the forefront and people need to be aware and care.
But I think what's important though is on my end, what I can do, again, like I said, is have those conversations. Don't argue with him. Don't try and beat him down. Just say, hey, listen, I'm using your words that you're saying, and I'm just making sure that you understand that is not okay. You can put as many house on fire analogies as you want. They still don't. Well, they won't understand until you have that open conversation and try to change their mind. At least put that effort in. So that's all.
You're a better man than me. I can't, debate in good conscience with anybody who cannot say, without any caveats, qualifiers, or conditions, Black Lives Matter. Anybody that has to be it's there's no way that you can meet them, or at least I can't. And other people have that ability to be more level-headed and to be more understanding. But what it is it's learned and trained ignorance. And there is no excuse in the digital age where we all have a supercomputer in our fucking pockets at all times. It's so easy. It's never been easier to educate yourself and to learn. And if you're still choosing ignorance, then I don't know how to help you.
Right.
And I think that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Brandon, you can go.
Well, it's just the metaphor is if go to a child's funeral and tell the mom, when she's my child's life matter, go tell the mom, no, all kids' lives matter. It's not fucking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just know that it's Trump's shooting himself in the foot, which I love. And I hope that the churches and everybody in his base, there's still going to be those select few that even through all of this, they're going to say, you know what? I think he's doing a good job. But they can't be helped, unfortunately. And what we can do is, obviously go out and vote.
Can we be real though? Like, what the hell is up with like the entirety of the country that Biden's the other choice? That makes no sense. Guys, fuck.
Just there hasn't been any campaigning or anything, we fucked up. Know what I mean? Like
we fucked up. Bernie should have been the guy. But
how is there not just like a very down the middle person that they were like, you seem normal. You seem normal. Let's get you in there. Like,
I don't know. I think people have just
Biden is the down the middle.
He doesn't know what planet he's on.
When you consider the fucking worst option,
I'm just saying.
And I'm not. I don't like to be one of those people. No, we're fucked. Like we're fucked. And like, I know it's like a meme and everything, but it's literally only June.
I know.
Yeah.
And I feel like this year has been 10 years.
I had a full-on panic attack the other day, with everything else going on, because I started seeing the memes about Yellowstone and having earthquakes. And I was like, oh, great. Yeah. So when that goes off, we're all just totally dead anyway. So what's the fucking point?
So there was that. And also, we're slated. This is supposed to, we're entering like the most volatile hurricane season on record.
Yeah.
Sick.
So like, I really feel like God was like, you know what? I'm done. Fuck you guys. I tried. I've been trying. I've given you every opportunity.
What if 2020 is the peak and then everything just starts, like, that's Earth's peak of shitness, and after that just everything starts getting better again forever?
Well, I mean, yeah, after a storm there comes after
maybe
a forest
that's an
fire.
optimist way to look at it. What is the line? What's the line? Aaron Eckhart? The night is darkest just before the dawn.
It is.
Absolutely.
Which isn't true. By the way, that's not how that works. But
that's true. The night is getting lighter right before the dawn.
Yeah, like the night is darkest at midnight, or like the opposite when the sun is. Obviously, right before dawn, it's going to be brighter. I'm just saying.
There can be some hope,
That's my new favorite.
Maybe
line. No, the night is, darkest. The sun is.
Yeah. Obviously, I understand the poeticness of but it's just not true. Neil deGrasse Tyson would have something to say about
true.
That
you would be like, the night is darkest at exactly 1:52 a.m.
Depending on what time of year it is.
Exactly at... Depending on the position of the polar... God, I can't do it.
He's
That's funny.
The best. He made being that smart so cool. And I'm so glad he did.
And then he got Me Too'd, and it's like,
I didn't know that.
Can we? I know.
Oh yeah, but sorry, we're going all over the place.
We're going all over the place, but I think it's okay. I think, obviously, have your thoughts about Biden. He spoke the other day, and I was like, not perfect, Biden. You probably shouldn't have said some of those things, but there was a spark in me. Maybe this is, my internal optimist or eternal optimist point of view, but like, it was nice not to really want to throw anything at the TV. And have somebody actually speak out in what's happening, other than somebody posing in front of a church with a Bible or going to the bunker. Like, it's just, it sucks. I wish there were more options. I wish, we had more of a thing to look forward to, but how 2020 is going on right now. Yeah. If we get 4 more years of Trump, I don't know, but
I just want to make something very.
I just
want to make something clear. I when I'm ripping on Biden, not in a way that I would ever. Well, first of all, I'm Canadian, so I can't vote. But I would never vote for Trump. I'm just saying that it's shocking to me from an outside view that that's the person the Democratic Party ended up with, because it would have been seemingly an easy victory with anybody that knew where they were. I don't know. Like, it's like
they don't actually want progress. They want to keep the status quo, and that's what Biden will allow them to do. I agree that he is better than Trump, but I've just become so disillusioned with everything. It was Ice T or Ice Cube. Somebody said this thing on Twitter. He was like, no. He was like, because he was posting about all this shit that's going on and speaking truths, and then he was like, and by the way, this isn't, I'm not a Democrat. This isn't Democrat, Republican, whatever that shit. Both wings are on the same bird. Damn. And I was like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Damn, bro.
I feel
that's fire. Fire bars, bro.
it's a never-ending battle, I think, and I think that we've dug ourselves in so much of a hole with Trump that if Biden can get us back to square one so that we can then make more progress, then I say,
has he announced
let's
who
do it,
his
but
running mate is?
not yet.
No, he's been playing focus group testing by announcing, like, being like, maybe it's this woman, maybe it's this woman. I don't know who it's going to be, but speaking of psychological never-ending nightmares and isolation, we watched The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick from 1980. It's the 40-year anniversary.
Wow.
Just like with Raging Bull.
Just so anybody wasn't clear, sorry, Caleb, that this is a podcast about where we talk about movies. If you're tuning into this, it is not political by any means.
But we have to. Technically, all art is political.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm pretty sure it got.
Of course.
There's no such thing as
when
apolitical
we were watching
art.
Knight's Tale, it got pretty political. Just saying.
It's actually a very interesting snapshot of the dissolution of monarchical power in feudal England.
It is a great snapshot, okay? don't mock my favorite movie.
You gave House a 3. I'm gonna mock whatever I want. So this is, I love Stanley Kubrick. I think he might be my favorite director. I think he's one of the only filmmakers that I can confidently say, like, even his, like, weakest films are still like good. Do you know what I mean? I love this movie. I don't know. Have you guys seen it before?
I hadn't fully seen it before, but again, it's The Shining, so I've seen most, if not all of it, in a variety of ways growing up. There's nothing that's surprising. There's nothing that's going to scare you. Like, and even to the point of knowing what to look out for with, like, conspiracy theories and things like that. It was really interesting sitting down and actually watching it all the way through for the first time. There was definitely a lot of things that, were more fleshed out, and it's just, it feels so ingrained in the world already that watching it, you're like, yep, this is The Shining. Yep.
Well, I mean, I hope that wasn't the extent of your experience. You were just like,
not in a bad way,
happening.
But I was just like, yeah, this is The Shining. That makes sense. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I'm on the same. I've never seen it before. I think I've watched the first third of it or something for a class, and we never got through it all. I kind of the same like with Brandon. Like, you see the poster, you know what the poster is, here's Johnny, that famous line,
Which was a ad lib, by the way.
Oh, that's amazing. That's actually really interesting. So that makes that little scene a little bit better. I thought it was okay. I thought overall, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I've added it to my repertoire of movies that I can see and that I've, experienced. But like Brandon, I think because it's been so ingrained in pop culture over the last 40 years that it wasn't a surprise in terms of the structure of the character, because I knew what the ending was going to be, right? And so for me, it was experiencing that journey for him. And I have notes about my problems with some things I didn't like about the journey, but we can get to that later. But yeah, I thought it was okay. I liked it.
Yeah, and it's just like it.
Glad I saw it.
It being from the '80s, everything that we've seen, like every horror movie that we've ever seen, is it all comes from this point. So it's just, I wish I was around to see it when it first came out in the '80s, and I'm sure it would have blown my mind.
Or maybe it wouldn't have. I mean, it got kind of really bad reception when it came out. Yeah, like if you read about it, people found it to be very slow. People found it to be very strange and just not, obviously some people really liked it, but it wasn't until I think the years went on that people kind of came around to see how important and influential and specific and thematic that it was. Obviously, it's one of the most influential films of all time. I mean, like you guys were saying, you can have never seen this film, but have absorbed every moment through osmosis by just The Simpsons. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's the best way to put it. Yeah.
But I think for me, what I love about it is part of why I love it is the pure technical craft on display is insane.
Yeah.
Like it's one of the first films to use the Steadicam. So like all those like long
I love the
tracking
long shots. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that just create this like sense of fucking like unease. And
every time that kid was riding his tricycle around the hotel, you're just like waiting for something to pop up. You know, you get ahead of it because you're like, I know what's going to happen. Something's going to happen, but what is going to happen? Does that make sense? That's what was fun about it. Was
absolutely.
Not knowing what he's going to see. Yeah.
yeah. It was also like...
Yeah, and I think that does that really well.
Going for the ride, you know? Just like, okay, we know where this is going. Let's just... I want to take the ride.
I thought...
Yeah.
Can I chime in with some of my slight issues with it at all? Okay. Do you guys mind?
No, go
I think
for it.
my biggest thing is... so Jack Nicholson plays Jack... in the movie. I felt that he was slightly projecting. It seems like he is, I know he's like a character actor and stuff, but I felt like, and it might just be his look, I might just be, because I know how he is as a person, the way he smiles, you just kind of get that. And I also know because the Joker, 9 years later, I actually had to look it up because when I was watching this movie, I'm like, did he do the Joker before this? Is he taking from that or is this before? So I had to look it up.
No, but he did do One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest before this.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, that might be where I'm thinking because
it's very similar. Like
it seems like that, like
crazy.
You know, for me, my issue is the looking through the brow. You know, he does this thing with his head, and he's an external out to in actor. It seems like he characterizes and he puts it on this thing for the film, and I feel like some of it was a little like forced. Now that being said. I talked to my confidant, Ryan, who has read the book, and he's a little more knowledgeable on the Stephen King stuff. He said that in the book that Jack, the dad, he should be like almost possessed as how crazy he kind of goes into. I just felt like I would have liked a little more of an exponential curve than like a kind of gradual. Because even the drive to the hotel with his wife and kid, he kind of had that look on him like, yeah, we're gonna go and write, you know.
But see, that for me actually makes the moment more cohesive to me. Right away, I'm not saying like you're wrong, but just for me, like right away, that first meeting where he's interviewing for the position, you can tell that he's like forcing his smile and he's like putting a practiced agreeableness on. I don't mind that I can see the slips through the cracks right away because it makes the moment where he snaps at her like a half hour into the movie at the typewriter. Yeah. It's like, of course he would. Yeah. He's like a loose cannon and he's like on his fucking edge's seat the entire time because he's just a fucking asshole. He's like a crazy person.
I watched
you know what I mean?
Kubrick where he was talking about how that was all very on purpose. They wanted Jack, the character, coming in and the audience already knowing that this guy is an asshole. That this guy is like you said, he's about to blow. It was very on purpose. And they were like...
Oh, well, there you go.
Kubrick was like, the beginning, you see this guy, the house doesn't turn him into a bad person. It just pushes him over the edge. And they wanted to make it very clear that this guy was going to break.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah. And I think that they did that really well, but I also think that, like Josh was saying, that doesn't like necessarily come through to everybody. Because that was a huge... problem that a lot of people had, like that were fans of the book. Like my dad, who loves the book, hates this film. Stephen King hates this film. He thinks it's a horrible adaptation.
Oh wow.
And it's because it's like, well, yeah, it's Jack Nicholson, so like he's like fucking crazy. Like there's no, you know what I mean? Like he's obviously gonna fucking go nuts. Yeah. But that's what I think the inevitability of it is what creates tension for me. It's like I know that he's gonna fucking snap. But like the question is when and like how severely, because like, you know, just because some guy is like snaps at his wife, that doesn't necessarily to me mean, oh, of course he's gonna run around the fucking hotel with an axe, like, you know what I mean, later. You know, like it's he truly like goes off the fucking deep end, and that's, you know, you're isolated for months in the winter. You know, this hotel has malevolent spirits that are working on your brain, like.
Well, I also think though
he was always destined to lose.
But then you got the poster of him in the door frame, you know, squeezing his head through the door, and so there's a little bit kind of like Shawshank Redemption, you know, where you're like, okay, we know that he gets out of prison. We also know that Jack's character is a fucking psycho, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of knew that the marriage wasn't gonna like it was on teetering, it was on eggshells anyway. I did another part of me also, and I know it needed to happen, but the amount of the vehicle for exposition in this movie seemed a little on the nose, and I don't know if that's just because of the filmmaking in the 80s or but like everything with the owner of the hotel saying essentially everything, hey, watch out, last person went crazy and killed his family, I'm like, okay, cool. They're setting up for that. The whole thing with like when the storm was coming in, oh, the telephones are down. Oh, hey, officer, is everything okay? Yeah, is everything okay up there? Oh, it's fine. No, I just want to talk to somebody. What's going on? Oh, the telephones will be down for the whole winter, And it's just like, okay, great. I didn't really need I could tell that they're in the mountains. The opening shot is beautiful of them going up into the mountains to see this hotel. It's Colorado. I'm pretty sure I know that in the wintertime it sucks. So that might be a little over hypercritical.
I don't know. I don't find that stuff didn't bother me because I think the film does such a good job about showing and not telling for like most of the time.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about Jack's personality. There's so many of these little moments, like, in the book, they go into like this like really long detail about how he was an alcoholic and he was abusive and they almost got divorced. But I feel like you get the glimpses of that, like, enough that they don't have to outright say all that stuff in the film. Like, I love the moment where they're walking around and getting the tour for the first time. And these two, like, maids or whatever are, like, leaving. And Jack, like, just, like, checks them out really quickly before he goes into the room. That. Just, like, a little thing, But there's tons of little stuff like that all through.
Can I ask about
it? I didn't mind
about
that
a little
stuff.
thing like that I picked up on, and I'm sure you probably have an, answer for this. So when it's either the first time or the second time he goes to the bar, and the bartender pops up, and they're talking, and he goes, he's explaining when he hurt Danny, and he goes, yeah.
Oh, there is a time frame.
That's what I was about to say. And he goes, and I haven't drank in 3 years. And like 2 scenes before, the mom explaining it is like 6 months ago. This happened. Yeah. And he hasn't drinking in 6 months.
There is, I think, because he hurt, because she also said as soon as he hurt the kid, he stopped drinking. Hasn't touched a drop
that was
6
months ago
since.
At the time, and then it's like.
But then he said 3 years. Yeah, that is a weird.
So there's like a bunch of shit like that where I was like, oh.
No, I mean this movie is famous, I think, for like. There are a lot of inconsistencies like that. Throughout I don't think it's a film.
Mistake. I'm like, I'm like, what's
no, because I'm with Kubrick's notorious attention to detail and specificity. I think if anything, it's kind of like, I mean, Jack is going insane.
Yeah,
and with the hotel's influence of him, like time becomes weird. Just his very like being is kind of being torn apart onto both like the physical and like whatever the spiritual horror plane you want to call it. I mean, it's like it goes like time has sort of become this non-existent entity, and like who knows what's true and what's not. You know what I mean?
My next question for you, Caleb. Explain to me,
okay,
and I implore you to convince me that the other guy, right? The guy who's kind of like the other spirit dude that's there, who's like the ex, the guy he thinks was the last caretaker who killed everybody.
Grady.
Thank you. I implore you to convince me that that's not the Matthew McConaughey character from The Dark Tower.
Oh, Randall Flagg? I mean, it could. I don't know. It could be.
Like, it's just like after watching The Dark Tower,
I mean, that's interesting.
And it's like, he's just there pushing buttons. Like,
I mean they serve the same function.
Exactly.
For sure. Like,
exactly.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love all that shit. I love the fucking where he's like, you have to correct that. Like, it's just so sinister, and it's like, like, oh, this guy's gonna kill his fucking family. Like, I don't know. I think it's really well done. And all the psychic visions Danny has, where he's like you see all the blood and shit.
I thought the kid was fantastic. And also, I want to talk about the fact that there's not a shot, and I really hope this happened, but that kid was what, like 8 or 9? Like, he's really young doing that. Maybe 10.
Dude, he's
really young.
He
did a great job. And he's he's doing the whole like meh thing with the finger.
I did a great job.
Could you imagine how big of a nightmare that kid must have been like on weekends with his parents? There's no way he just didn't keep doing that the entire time. They're like, dude, you have to stop. And just being like, Danny's not here right now. Like, dude, you gotta stop.
Oh my god, what an out as an 8-year-old.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Eat your vegetables.
Tony made me do it.
Exactly. And you know that he's doing that on set, getting really positive feedback because you're doing an amazing job. Like, he definitely left that set and kept doing it for way too long. That's all I kept thinking.
Well, you know what's interesting, and we're kind of jumping all over the place, but I mean, there's so much to talk about. But with Kubrick was like very much like two people on this set. Like, he was apparently very protective of Danny,
Really?
like the kid actor.
Good.
And like didn't want him to get disturbed or like traumatized. And apparently he didn't know that he was even in a horror movie until like he watched it as a teenager. Do you know what I mean? And he was like,
wow.
Very careful with him. But then he like bullied Shelley Duvall to the point that he like almost
That's like a
drove her
real
insane.
thing, right? I always remember hearing about that it's like a nightmare experience for her, right?
Like, and I guess it kind of goes into what we were talking about with like Brando and like Coppola or in earlier episodes where it's like Kubrick apparently was like, I wanted to like push her to the point where she would break to get the authenticity of the reaction. And even like Jack Nicholson was like, dude, like, come on, like relax, like you're going a little hard on her. And it's like, is that justified? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's insane. And I think there's a much better way to go about getting a performance out of someone.
Same here.
Well, it's the thing too. If
she became a crazy person, I'm not saying just because of that, but like,
I mean, there was a
definitely
moment
she talks about it as like a very difficult year of her life.
Yeah, that's very sad to think, because if nowadays, if I'm working with an actress and she just isn't, obviously I was given the tools at the studio, the MFA program, to like try and get something believable out of the actress without like making like a safe space to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the 80s, like if she's not getting there, then I would, maybe get somebody else. But at the same time,
Also
in that bathroom when he was kind of breaking in, I like made a note when she was like screaming her head off. Like I was like, she's acting her face off. If she was a singer, I'd say she's belting her face off, because the horror.
Yes, bitch, belting face.
She's yes. Because with the axe,
skinny legend.
I also had a note though that when she was running around with that 10-inch knife, I'm like, honey, you're gonna cut yourself.
Yeah.
Stop flailing. She's looking behind her and she's just waving her hands.
Well, I mean, she was fucking exhausted, like in real life.
Yeah.
Like, imagine like for 13 months, right?
Oh wow.
Shooting for 12-hour days and being berated the entire time. Like, she was like broken. She was a broken shell of a human being.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's
it's
not
so
okay.
sad.
I don't know
You
why
what I
it
mean?
took so long to shoot.
Yeah, why?
Because Kubrick is a perfectionist and would do like 50 takes of, he's like Fincher. Like, he just like, until he gets it right, until he gets it to the point that he wants it. And it's like, like Nicholson and Shelley Duvall and Scatman Crothers also were all like, we'll never work with him again.
Wow.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
because it was just a nightmare.
That makes sense
Apparently.
in terms of, I guess, as an actor, like you can't, if you're working that long and that hard and that meticulous, honestly, I would probably go to more of an outward in type of character building like Jack Nicholson. You know what I mean? Like, if I can portray this crazy and kind of go there and like pick my moments to really kind of go, but if he can get the shot, especially if it's like take 45, if he can get the shot, or if I can look like I'm crazy, I'll do that. That way I can like, I get off of work, I can just go home and just like chill, right? Because if you work like we work on a movie like this, that's not healthy as like your emotional
fry
level
your
or things
fucking
like that.
brain.
Yeah.
Like with Jack Nicholson, he was playing it more like, okay, so your first 20 takes, you're doing a more naturalistic thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you get tired and it's like, fuck it, I'm just going to be crazy. And Kubrick was like, yes, that's what I want. Because these people are supposed to be at the end of their emotional and mental rope. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
you're creating
Fair.
this environment where these people are like pushed to the edge. So like, I personally think that it's totally fits. I can see where you're coming from for sure. And I think in general, you're right, Josh, that sort of like outward in, aesthetic usually doesn't work. But for some reason, for me, I think it totally fits the isolated insanity tension like nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
I also do think, like you were saying, Josh, I think a big part of it is the fact that it's Jack Nicholson, and again, this is such a starting point. So, like, we know what we're gonna get from him in this movie. Like, you know how he's gonna sound, you know what his mannerisms are gonna be a little bit. So I think that also is a part of it, because I
think a lot of it
so
was
unique.
the bias of his natural look as an actor. You know, he does have that kind of crazy grandpa.
He sounds so specific and unique. Like, it's just Jack Nicholson. He's very him. So I think that's like a big part of it.
Yeah.
Now you were talking about her running around with a knife, which brings me to my next major question about the movie, which you must have known this was coming. We got to talk about the guy in the bear costume and the guy in the suit in the room for no reason.
That's a dog costume?
It was a dog or a pig? It was a bear. I think it was a bear.
Not the point. So
all I know is that it had no butt. It just had his butt, bare butt. And
yeah, his ass was hanging out. I love that zoom too, where like it like comes up and then the other guy peeks in and then zooms in. She's like, "Oh fuck!"
So,
like, well, I think like you're not supposed to know. I think it's supposed to just be this strange, disturbing thing that happens.
I'm just assuming with it being The Shining that there's more behind it. That's all. That's what I'm asking. Like, what's the conspiracy theory? What's the connection? What's going on here?
In the book, it's made kind of more explicitly clear. The Overlook is this like very, very famous hotel in the Stephen King. Like I can't think of like it's like a Four Seasons, like a major
and then in the middle of nowhere
hotel.
And super private. Like they made that pretty clear in the movie too. That it's like people go here to do whatever
in the middle of like ski country. Do you know what I mean? Like in season, it's a very popular place for like rich people to go, and they're also like Jack Torrance goes into the basement in the book and he finds all these newspaper clippings about like this rich celebrity or this politician like found like with their mistress or like blah blah blah. So like
you kind of got
sort
that
of like an
on
eyes
the table. He had newspaper clippings on the table in like a book, so they did put that in there.
But so like I think it's just supposed to be like a senator with like there's just like debauched sex parties happening all the time. Do you know what I mean? But, like, for Shelley Duvall, for Wendy, like, just watching the fucking crazy spirits come out, I love that they don't explain it. I love that she's just running around and sees some guy getting blown by a dude in a dog costume. And it's just like, oh, this is too much. I gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, it's so fucked up and weird and I think, like, funny, but still in, like, a tense way. Like, it doesn't sacrifice the stakes. Like, the fucking old woman that Jack hallucinates. Like it's like funny, but it's also like gross and horrifying.
Yeah, I didn't.
Well,
like,
and then like
it's everything at once.
That scene worked way better than I thought it was going to. Because also the weirdest thing being on watching that and being like, no way, I've seen this exact scene from Ready Player One, which I was like, oh, weird, because they go through it in that, right?
Yeah, I love that movie. Oh, I love Ready Player One.
The book's way better, by the way. If you haven't read it yet, definitely worth the read.
Of course.
But yeah, so that scene held up really well for me, actually, tension-wise and all the way through. I thought it was great. And then when she turns into an old lady, it wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be. It was still
it's terrifying.
It was terrifying. It's still very serious and gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt just to that though. I loved the framing of the woman coming out of the bathtub. Just how they had set it up with her kind of, she's off to the side and she kind of stands up. She doesn't quite reveal herself until she steps out. It's a very symmetric framing, and I actually just wanted to shout out in terms of the craft of that shot. It was nice.
I mean, yeah, that's his whole bag is like framing and the technical stuff. I mean, Kubrick was unmatched in my opinion.
Also, she was saucy.
Oh wow, okay. I feel
the
uncomfortable.
Old lady, I agree.
No, I would just like to go back, guys. The technical.
Or are you talking about the twins?
Oh my god! Wow. Okay, not going there. I would like to point out the technical term.
Come play with us, Brandon.
Is
forever and ever.
I believe that gentleman who's getting blown by the bear, the dog, the guy in the costume I think his fetish is a furry. I believe it's called. Where there are people who have a sexual fetish of people in like.
Well, the guy,
costumes.
Dressing up would be a furry, at least for sure.
But I think it also works both ways.
He's got his fursona on.
Right, of course.
But then it's like, if you're not I don't know, I don't know too much of like furry lore, so like I don't know if you're just into anthro stuff. If you're not dressing up, like you have to dress up to be a furry. I don't know. No, these are all questions for anybody. If anybody would like to comment with their answers,
well, were furries invented?
Please let us know.
When did that become a thing?
Maybe Stephen.
I think furries have been around as long as Disney has.
Somebody
Like, with
would,
their
yeah. There's
fucking,
gonna be
like-
somebody out there that has that fetish. I think Caleb, kind of the sense that you always get like both ends, right? You have people who dress up, and then you have people who are attracted to people in those costumes. I think it does work both ways, but I can do some research and get back to you next week on that.
Yeah, let me know what you find.
So, can
The
we
furry shit.
can we talk about The Shining being the pure imagination of a child and the psychic element of it? Because I did
Right.
write down the tie to the Dark Tower from last week, that the power that the Man in Black was harnessing is exactly what Danny has, and Danny seems to be a very, very powerful psychic, you know? And I'm curious as
Yeah.
to why there wasn't anything more with his character
hold
throughout
on.
the lore.
I
But
just want to make something very
you know?
clear, though. While Danny is a very powerful psychic, he is nowhere near as powerful as Jake is. Jake is way more powerful, and he can psychic across multiverses. Friggin' Danny can't even
All right, so-
psychic out of Colorado.
okay.
Just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, you have Dick Halloran being like, "I never seen a shine like yours," and it's like, all right, buddy, he's great.
He
I
was
like
awesome.
Do you know how I knew your name was Doc?
And then Wendy's like, "I'm sure I didn't say that." They make her. I think Shelley Duvall gets a bad rap because people are always call her performance like the weak point.
I
of the
found
movie.
it that way.
And I
I think that's the character.
really,
though.
I don't know. I think it's just the character of being this just very like sweet, tired woman who's just like been like putting up like with an awful marriage situation for the sake of her boy, and she's just a very like hometown girl, like every woman, like just like being like, well, you know, like she's not stupid, she just doesn't know about obviously psychic shit, you know. And then I love, I don't know, I think she gets a bad rap. I don't think she's nearly as bad as people say she is.
No,
But
yeah, I mean, you can.
I agree that there's that scene with Dick Halloran and Danny, and he's trying to get him to like be like talk about it, and he's like, Tony told me not to talk about it. And then it's like, yeah, when he's like, I want to go into room 237, and he's like, well, there's nothing in there, but like you should never go anyway.
Right.
Because there's nothing in there, so don't worry about it. And I'm like, I feel like a huge part of this movie could have been avoided if you were just like honest with him.
Right.
I mean, like, yeah, there's an evil fucking ghost. Like, don't go
don't
in that
open the
room.
door.
Kid,
You know.
you're psychic, so you're going to be able
Yeah.
to see this stuff. Don't go near it. All right? Good call.
Yeah.
Caleb, I want to talk about sorry, did you want to go on?
No, go.
The detail, right? Because you said Kubrick had a lot of detail. One moment I really did notice and I clocked was the pile of manuscript that was sitting there. The all work and no play makes for a
All work and no play makes. Oh, what a great fucking scene!
what's it? And then she's like,
In my opinion,
what's the whole line? I have it written down.
all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Jack a dull boy. The fact that they were like somebody at some point, a prop master or a designer, typed out on the typewriter as if it was a script, as if it was narrative, as if it was like this weird kind of thing. Like she went through through about 20 some pages, and they all had something different. And so I just wanted to give a nod.
No, Josh.
What?
Kubrick made his secretary do that. So that's what we saw. And then for every language the film was translated in, he made her do it in their own like a colloquial equivalent of the idiom.
No.
So like there's a specific one in German and Spanish and French.
Oh my god. I mean that's
so yeah, imagine getting that job. It's like, all right, type fucking 60 pages of this.
You see her now.
In
She has
5 languages.
arthritis now, and she's just like she can't
Yeah.
use her hands
on the typewriter too. Which I love, and I love that it's a typewriter, and then I love that you zoom in and you see there's like some spelling mistakes here and there, and not everything's like totally
capital,
consistent.
yeah,
as
there
if
was, like, a
somebody was
lowercase.
just possessed, just like going and going.
Yeah.
And I think it ties so great into the earlier scene where it's the first time that you see her interrupt him at the typewriter, and now that you know, like on a second watch that's what he's typing. That moment is so tense, and he pulls the paper right out before she gets to him and hides it, and it's like, oh my god. Like, you know, when did he become crazy? When did he lose his mind? Like, when did he get possessed? Like, was he always planning to do this, or at what point? You know, it's just so fucking insane.
And then there's that whole shot at the end, right? Like the zoom in of the photo, and he's right there front and center. Like, was he already there, or did the house like take his soul? You know, or I I mean, I just was like, oh, he's been there before. He was a spirit. But then Ryan was like, no, well, my interpretation was that the house kind of takes your soul, right, and adds you to the party, right? And so, but was also interesting that I made a really distinct kind of point that I'm like, that looks a lot like, you remember in It, the remake, where they would be going to the history books and there would be the dad of or Pennywise, essentially. He did kind of have the same facial features as Pennywise.
So this is what I wanted to talk about, because I went deep down this rabbit hole last night after watching The Shining, because I was like, okay, I got to learn more about the Stephen King universe and how it all ties in. So that stuff, especially with the new It movies, they're doing it on purpose. That's what I meant by the Dark Tower. They're actively connecting everything on purpose, like. And it's retroactive. He's doing it. So, for example, none of us realized this last time, but we were watching The Dark Tower, and they're walking through the woods, and there's the whole carnival thing, like the Ferris wheel that's broken and everything. That Ferris wheel says Pennywise across it in big letters.
Yeah. Oh wow!
Oh,
so
nice.
They're doing it. That's what I meant by The Dark Tower. It's not only that though. It's like the kid has the book Cujo with him, and like they packed The Dark Knight with shit from the rest of his movies, and
The Dark Knight,
or sorry, the Dark Tower,
Knight,
and same with like It and It Too. They're packing all of his new movies with old shit from his old movies, so it's all one universe, which I think is
right. So now I'm gonna have to watch Pet Cemetery to make sure that they're doing.
I would love for Batman to fight Pennywise. By the way,
dude, right? Question, Brandon, in your rabbit hole research journey, are there specific books that connect more, or does his entire
so it's
novel arsenal connect?
So what it is because it's retroactive, because it didn't start till the Dark Tower series, and then that's when he realized that like what he was writing was an interconnected universe for everything. But there is, so it's like Keystone Earth, which was the one that like Jake is on, is that's like the Dark Tower world's Earth, but there's Earth, which is like where Pennywise lives and shit. And that Earth was created by, like, that turtle, the turtle,
right?
But the two of them are from a different dimension that like has a bunch of evil creatures in it. So they escape to our dimension. But so that Earth though, with like what's the town, man? Something Rock.
Castle
so that
Rock.
Earth with like Castle Rock and all of that is its own world. So that's like all of his normal shit is on that Earth, and then so it's just interconnecting everything through these portals.
So like Shawshank Redemption is in the Castle Rock Earth.
Yeah, like and like that type of thing, right? And
the Green Mile and stuff like that.
But I guess
and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, so he even brought in all his novellas and short stories and things like that too.
I mean, he even brought himself in. So like to that. So it's
Is it?
He really went to the point.
Can you tell that? Can you tell that he was addicted to cocaine for like a long period of time?
Dude,
he's a fucking psychopath.
That's the best. When you're reading the first book of the Dark Tower, there's like, I don't know, maybe 45 pages where Roland's just tripping out on drugs, and it's very clearly that he's just on a drug ship writing, and it's amazing. Like, it's super interesting.
I mean, he's like been on record. There are several books that he just has no memory of writing. Cujo's the big one. Cujo's the big one.
Writing Cujo. Just woke up with it.
Wow.
But even the Shining was like, you know, I mean, Jack Torrance is an alcoholic because Stephen King was going through substance issues with alcohol too around that time, and I mean, he definitely puts a lot of himself into his work, and I think that's really admirable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it manifests itself in really weird ways, like his like cocaine nightmare induced writing will lead him to write a child orgy, for instance.
Which,
so
by the way,
I
thought about this. You could cast 18, 19-year-old actors that look really young, maybe like early teenage. It might not be a child, but you can get close, maybe.
Why?
Josh is like, no, we can make this work. Let's film the child.
Why are you trying so hard to make this work?
Just because at one point I would love when they make a movie adaptation of a book that it's accurate at one point in our lives.
Maybe it doesn't have to be this one though maybe.
Okay.
With the child, you know.
I think that was probably a smart. I mean, I think that you should be able to make art about anything. You know, it's designed to be uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I don't think he was actually like eroticizing children, But I also do think that no fucking studio
Yeah.
on the face of the fucking planet, like if Andy Muschietti was like, so we're going to do the child orgy in the sewers, and then they would have been like, how about no? That's fucking
Actually,
disgusting.
you know what we're not gonna do?
What are you talking about? Yeah. That would have been too much. Imagine just being like, imagine having no idea what it is. You're just going in with no knowledge, and then you're just like fucking sitting on a date, and then this fucking child orgy happens on screen. You're like
So
traumatizing people for life.
So messed
Yeah,
up.
I wanted to talk more about the movie a little bit, but I kind of completely lost my thought. I don't know.
Was it about the hedge maze?
Did you?
Because the hedge maze is cool.
Hedge maze is really good. Oh yeah, no, that definitely is. So these iconic shots,
Yeah,
right?
that's where Goblet of Fire stole all their
I could
shots
not
from.
stop thinking that
That's
the
amazing.
entire time. I was like, this is the Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, but there's no cut
It's
at
really,
the middle.
dude.
You don't know that? They never got to the middle.
Yeah, they did.
That's true.
That's
they
why.
did.
That's why
Almost
Jack
immediately.
froze to death because he couldn't get to the goblet.
So here's the
He's
thing,
like, I
though.
can't get out.
I thought it was
Dumbledore,
clever
save me.
having the kid kind of retrace the steps, and he was a smart kid to kind of hide and stuff. But I was also expecting at that point that he was going to run into Jack. You know what I mean? Like the kid's just like running and looking behind him, and all of a sudden he's going to, run into Jack. But I like that he did it. I like that the
But
family
he's
got
got
away.
the psychic powers,
Oh,
so
true.
he can tell.
The shines.
There.
Like that's why it's a great. I like that they didn't. You were saying, Josh, that you were upset that it wasn't focused on more. I feel like it was focused on enough. It just wasn't like told right to the audience faces, like he's using his psychic powers.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like that his intuition kind of accounts for that a lot of the time. Like how he can like get out of Tony
I liked.
is
Yeah.
kind of helping guide.
I liked
him
his
and shit.
shining face. Like every time he'd be doing the shining stuff. Yeah, like he did. It
Yeah.
was very, very good. I enjoyed it. It was funny.
How about
Like he just like stuck his fork into an
what
electrical
is-
outlet. Just like,
What was Tony supposed to be? Again, I'm trying to think in bigger context of this universe, but what is just a random?
So in the book, they make it more clear that because he's so young, he can't really like comprehend
yeah?
that he can read people's minds or like have like a
oh,
psychic
Tony's an actual
ability
person
of clairvoyance.
telling him what to do, being a dick.
No, Tony is what he calls the ability to hear other
Yeah,
people's
I think
thoughts
it's the
and
kid.
to like
It's
psychically.
the kid trying to conceptualize.
It's like his conscience,
It's his,
basically. Yeah, he's like conceptualizing his psychic abilities into a person,
so that he can understand it as a
Okay,
as a
because I was about
Yeah,
to jump to
whatever.
random flag again and be like, "Yo, wait, so it's him just talking to him the whole time?"
no, that just makes Tony's a good
Okay,
guy.
okay.
Tony's
Okay,
helping
cool.
him out.
Yeah, because Tony's like, don't go to that hotel.
That's true. Tony was like, "Do not go to the hotel."
Why don't you want to go, Tony? I don't wanna. Like for a kid that young who also doesn't know what's going on, I think he
thought
did a
he did
really
such
good
a
Absolutely.
good
I
job.
loved the reveal of Red Rum to murder. I thought that with the mirror shot.
Yeah, the mirror
I
shot.
thought that was great. That kind
It's
of
when
brought me
you
to surprise.
yeah, because when you know going into it, it's like, okay, this is like really obvious. But if you don't know, like I don't know, like the first time I was like, oh yeah, that is what that would be backwards. Like that was really
Yeah.
great. Like I think it works. I think it holds up. It's a cool moment.
He used a lot of mirror shots in terms of his the way he set up his shots and the way they kind of used reflection to like for the.
Oh my god, yeah, that moment with Jack on the bed
And he's sitting
Danny's
and he
like-
looks over at his kid, but you
Yeah.
can't. You see the back of his head, but you see his in the face, and his head's kind of distorted down, and it's very menacing. It's very
so
imposing,
good.
which I thought was great.
Love that.
But I
shit.
wanted to say what I thought was kind of funny, maybe because it was at the end of the movie and it's been a long movie, but the fact that he doesn't get out of the maze and the next shot is just him frozen in his. I mean, we've all seen that image of Jack Nicholson in the ice, right? I didn't realize it was from this movie, but I thought it was kind of funny that still had that same kind of demented look on his face, and then the movie ends and he's in the photo and life goes on, But
Yeah, they call that the Kubrick stare. It's in a lot. It's in like Clockwork Orange. It's in Full Metal Jacket. Like
Yeah,
it's a very
that's
common
what it
trope
is.
that he has to have the character like look up, like past his eyebrows.
yeah,
I think it's fucking creepy as shit. I think my favorite iteration of it. Have you guys seen Full Metal Jacket? With Vincent D'Onofrio, like with his fucking shotgun in the bathroom.
Also,
like, it's like fucking horrifying.
Goddamn Vincent D'Onofrio. He is the man.
right.
I
Yeah,
like,
he's great.
everything that he's in is just Also, I love that half the time you can't even recognize him. Right? He's such a character actor. You're like, who's that?
Yeah.
Oh shit, it's Vincent D'Onofrio. Oh my god.
I love this is just for you, Brandon, because I know you haven't seen it yet, Josh. But I love in that flashback in BoJack Horseman, like where he's like playing the part that Mr. Peanut Butter
it's amazing.
would have. He's like Zoe, Zelda.
So
like, he's. I like that he can make fun of himself.
Yeah,
so that's
he's,
cool.
He's the man. He's his Kingpin was something special. Okay, so I got one more question about The Shining, and that's definitely based on everything that you hear about it growing up. But what about The Shining was supposed to convince me that the moon landing didn't happen?
Wait, what?
So there's this theory.
See, Caleb knows
that
what I'm
actually. So I actually, this is going to loop around back to something that I tried to talk about earlier. I messaged you guys, like, have you guys seen, like, The Dirties? Like, do you know who Matt Johnson is? He's made a couple films. He made this show called Nirvana, the band, the show, that I, like, highly recommend you guys watch. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It's, like, might be funnier than It's Always Sunny. I don't know yet. But he made this movie called Operation Avalanche, which is about faking the moon landing. And when he's like, I'm a big conspiracy guy, but when I was talking to the guys at NASA and I did all the research, there's like it's mathematically impossible that the footage that we saw was doctored. Like, it has to be real. And he goes into this whole thing, but he's like, it's a proven, the moon landing wasn't faked, blah, blah, blah. So I thought that was interesting. But there's this theory that Stanley Kubrick was hired to fake the moon landing. And like that famous footage we see of the flag and the guy on the moon is fake, and that he did that. So The Shining is like one of the, I forget exactly why I knew this was coming. I should have researched it, but they do say like there's like a one of Danny's outfits has like a rocket ship on it.
Yeah, one of his sweaters is a NASA sweater.
It's the one that gets torn.
It's like a NASA. So that is like, see, he's like telling us he faked the, you know what I mean? Okay. Like, it's people that are like, I like reading a lot into films, but there's also a point where it's like, you're like really grasping at straws here,
expected something super blatant, like for him to like take the sweater off and like throw it on the ground or something, or just take the sweater off and be like, this sweater's fake. But that didn't happen, so it wasn't so clear cut.
Tony says this sweater's fake.
Tony says the moon's not real.
No, there's obviously like probably more to it than that, but yeah, it is this huge conspiracy theory for a long time that Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing. He's like the only one who could pull it off. But then you listen to this interview, and it's like this Matt Johnson guy is like, no, it was real, and I'm bummed because I love conspiracy theories.
Well, that flag argument is hilarious. It's like, do you know how kinetic energy works in space? Because they just jammed it into the ground, so obviously it's going to continue moving.
Nah, dude, that's not. There's no air out there, bro. So did you guys find the movie? I'm guessing you guys didn't find the movie scary at all.
Scary? No.
I thought there were moments
I wasn't like scared, but there's definitely moments of tension. Like, I'm definitely like engaged.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say there's definitely startling moments. Like, for instance, I'm trying to think of. I think the reveal of the issue, the reveal of the old woman, decayed or whatever, is that you see the shot in the mirror of her back, and so you're already looking at all the makeup and like, okay, cool, the back, what her front's gonna look like. And the face looked pretty scary, but I think because there's not very many like quick shots. The only quick shots are like the two girls bloody on the floor. That was kind of intermittent with the elevator and stuff.
Oh, how good's that elevator too? The slow motion blood and like the symphonic score coming through.
Dude, I loved that shot. Can you imagine like how much they used volume wise?
A fuck ton. I don't know the number, but like, and then having to do it over and over and over again.
But even like, him jumping out behind the pillar and sticking an axe in the guy's chest, it wasn't scary because I was with it. Right, nothing happened quick enough for me to be startled. I guess that's just my
Can
thing.
I ask you guys what cut you watched, by the way? Like, how long was the movie?
It was long.
2 hours 23 minutes,
Yeah,
maybe.
I think mine was about
So
the same.
now this is now, and I didn't think about this until we like got on today. So I have the European cut, which is like 1 hour and 59 minutes. It's like just almost under 2 hours. And
Oh, wow.
That's
I should have said
seems way
that's
better.
the cut that I
Yeah, that's
this cut that I was gonna watch.
Better.
Oh,
they
interesting.
take out like the shit with like the doctor and a bunch of like other expositional stuff, and they just get like it's like pretty much like a very streamlined experience. And I didn't even think about it because that's just the cut that I
Yeah.
watched. Like that's like my version of the movie that I prefer.
Dude, actually,
And I didn't think to.
It's interesting though, because this one definitely felt like there was about 20 to half an hour too long. I'd say.
There's a lot of long shots. Yeah.
That's why, yeah. I mean, which I like. I like long shots, and there's definitely lots of like long takes in the version that I watched as well. They just cut out kind of redundant scenes.
No,
that
that's
didn't
what I'm
need to be
saying.
there.
Like it makes sense that there's a cut
Yeah.
that's just under 2 hours. That's about perfect. It seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely prefer it. And there's whatever, people have their opinions about that shit, but so I apologize. I should have said
it's
that
okay.
at some point, but I just didn't think to because it's like
It's also because it's the.
you know.
I don't know about you, Josh, but because it was like first watch through for me, I would rather watch the longer one and get everything and not miss anything, and be able to, and then watch
For
the
sure.
other one
Right.
next and take things out. So,
Yeah.
but I was thinking.
I just wish.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I just was gonna noting on like what's available for streaming. I wish there was more like because it'd be easier for me to sit and watch it again and kind of take my time with it. But because I'm renting some of these movies,
Yeah.
I have 48 hours.
Yeah.
Like once I watch, I have 48 hours to watch it again, and a lot of the times I can't time it. Like scheduling purposes don't work out, but it is kind of amazing what's not available on streaming when you would think that like
Yeah.
there's so many platforms out there. You'd think more would be. It seems like we've been kind of hitting a rut where it's like, oh, this movie, and then it's like, really, it's only on one thing that
I
know.
was surprised I had to rent this.
Nobody-
show.
problem.
Like, how is that not on
Yeah.
Netflix?
Yeah, but they know that people will.
Yeah, that's
you know
true.
what I mean?
It is The Shining.
Yeah.
So like, it's like one of the most famous movies of all time. They're like, yeah, we can make people pay for this. I hope it wasn't like too expensive.
It's the same price
$4.99.
as The Dark Tower.
Yeah, which is a travesty in itself. But
Yeah, I wish they would price it.
I think
for-
one of those films has objectively more value than the other, but that's okay.
All right, fine. Now, do we want to? Are we ready to rate? Maybe?
I mean, there's so much more that
Is it- well,
we can
hold
talk
on,
about.
is there-
we're
Caleb.
running- we're already running
If there's
along.
something you want to talk about,
Anything-
go ahead. I don't have anything else on mine
Is
really.
there anything absolutely
I can think of.
Because I also can keep. If nobody stops me, I'm just going to keep bringing up multiverse crap all day. Because I'm super interested in the Stephen King multiverse now. Like, for example, was Doctor Sleep... I haven't watched it. But in that movie, Caleb, is it mostly just them retroactively making this all make more sense in the Stephen King universe? The Shining and all that? Is that what's happening?
I mean, like, kind of, not really. It's definitely like it's a very different tone and a very different, like, they go way deeper into people with psychic powers and shit.
Well, speaking of, I remembered I was seeing a thing last night on it. Ewan McGregor's character Danny, right, like the kid from The Shining. Apparently, at some part during the movie, he drops a whole line he drops a quote from Roland.
Yeah, I mean, it's I see what you mean. They're definitely doing a lot of work to make it all like MCU, but no, the Doctor Sleep. People are, I think, hard on it. It's not The Shining, but it's not The Dark Tower either. Like, it's a solid movie. Ewan McGregor is really solid. Rebecca Ferguson, who plays like the main bad guy, she's like so good. But no, it definitely transforms into like Danny's like an alcoholic now. He grew up because of the fucking horrible shit that happened to him. He's like traumatized and he's trying to figure his life out, and then like Rebecca Ferguson is like she plays like this leader of this group of like vampires or whatever, and that like feed off of psychic energy. So they go and like try to find the kids that like Danny have the Shining, and they like suck their souls out. And so Danny's gotta kill them all.
Right?
You know?
Remember how
wow.
in the Dark Tower we're shooting kids' souls at the tower?
Yeah.
I'm just
no,
saying.
I know. I totally see it.
I see, but I also know that when people are trying to reach for the whole moon landing conspiracy, I think, Brandon, you can get caught in that trap of like, going to every little paragraph and being like, oh, what is this? And I can just see you with with a cork board with like pictures and red string.
It's always sunny. It's always sunny Snapshot of Charlie. Like,
I agree, but here's the two things about that. One, totally watched multiple YouTube videos explaining it very clearly to me. So the cork board is in my it's in my mind now. It's in my brain. And secondly, though, I don't remember what I was going to say.
There you go.
That's good.
No, just it's because it's retroactive. That's why. It's because they're making more new movies, and like watching interviews with them talking about it, they're actively putting things in. So now to be looking for it isn't like going through each paragraph trying to find stuff that isn't there. It's just identifying what they very purposely put there.
Well, I hope that the filmmakers and the screenwriters and stuff who are trying to do this aren't just reaching or aren't just trying to make things for the sake, but I hope they do. That if they do try and pull some connections and try and just like connect it all, that there is some base to it in the novels themselves. Is all I think.
Yeah, I mean, just by the way they set up the Dark Tower, it makes it pretty easy for them to, like, you know what I mean? Everything's encapsulated. Yeah. Like just infinite multiverses, so you can really do whatever the hell you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I love it. I love all that shit.
Yeah, just those shots were really great. Yeah, I especially liked the pantry of him. It's like the undershot of him trying to get out of the pantry. Yeah. And it's just, he's psycho, but,
Yeah. I think Kubrick, there are so many directors that have made multiple films that I love, but Kubrick has like 4 masterpieces under his belt, and I think this is one of them. I really do.
What are the other ones? Because I don't have them on the top of my head.
2001.
Eyes Wide Shut.
For sure.
Full Metal.
Dr. Strangelove and Barry Lyndon, in my opinion. If you haven't seen Dr. Strangelove or Barry Lyndon or 2001, any of them, Full Metal Jacket and Clockwork Orange are also great. Eyes Wide Shut is great. Lolita is really interesting. The Killing is really good. Like, he's great. But I think those 4 are like, holy shit, changing, like every decade just like changing cinema. It's like insane.
But people don't want to work with him because he's nuts.
I remember watching Clockwork Orange for the first time and being like, who is this guy? Like the main guy, Malcolm McDowell. And being McDowell? Knowing, not putting it together that it's Malcolm McDowell, who, we've been watching play the old man character forever. So I went to look it up and I lost my mind. Yeah. I was like, that is insane. You've had the greatest career ever. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So
we're gonna rate The Shining.
I'm obviously before anybody gives me shit for it, I'm obviously giving it a 5. But I know you guys are a little more critical. So
I think this is kind of like I would say Shawshank Redemption. So I would say 4.5.
Yeah. What did I give Shawshank? Did I give 4.5? Something like that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna give this a 4 then, because I enjoyed Shawshank more.
Damn. All right, bro. If that's how you feel, I'm not gonna.
Nah, I liked it a lot. I liked Shawshank better.
I think mine is more towards I was a little bit ahead because we just have it absorbed so much that
exactly.
It was cool to watch, and I'm glad I did, and I understand how it is so prevalent to history of film. So.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. Unfortunately, we're not just watching them as blank slates, right? Like it's like we're watching them with all the
definitely knowledge. That usually, I mean, like, yeah, like I was like very critical of like The Godfather and Raging Bull and stuff like that. But for me, like I think I just love genre stuff anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So like this is just a movie that I think is a really incredible living artifact.
Absolutely.
But that was cool. Thank you guys for going on that spooky little journey with me.
Absolutely.
Josh, it's your turn.
Are we flipping to female directors?
I think we should.
For this cycle?
I think it's been 15 episodes and we haven't done any female directors, so I would like to do that.
So I did some. I went through a list of movies done by female directors, and a lot of them are very interesting, but I want to pick one that might be on people's radars. We're going to do Winter's Bone.
With
oh, okay.
With Jennifer Lawrence.
Jenny Lawrence and Mark?
No, Marky Mark is in The Lovely Bones.
Okay.
Winter's Bone is John Hawkes, who's like an incredible actor that doesn't get enough recognition. He's the best part.
I love that you knew
directed
exactly
and
the movie I was thinking.
written by Deborah Granick. So, yeah,
I didn't realize that was a female director. All right, that'll be cool.
It's on HBO for sure here. Brandon, I'm sorry I did not look up for Canada.
Have no doubt it's somewhere. No, don't worry about it.
Well, it's funny because a lot of the other videos I think, oh yeah, it should be somewhere, and then it's like,
here's the thing: worst
crap, I have
case
to rent
scenario, it's been whatever $4.99. You know, it's not the end of the world. It's
exactly.
all right.
No, Winter's Bone. I thought it would be interesting because I did hear about this. I think this is Jennifer Lawrence's Oscar win. Her first one.
No,
first nomination.
Oscar win was for Silver Linings.
Yeah, but this was the first nomination.
Oh, this was a nomination. Yeah. Okay.
This was the first time that she was really in anything. This was her big breakout.
Oh, interesting.
And then she got Hunger Games.
She was on
which is why everybody
she was on a
knows better.
Sitcom.
Yeah, but fuck that. You know what I mean? No one cares.
I'm just saying.
This was her breakout film.
Yes, and she got nominated for an Academy Award for it, and then that was it's off to the races.
Right. I look forward to watching it, guys. So, starting female directors this cycle, and I think it'll be an interesting kind of journey for us because then we can kind of start pairing them all together. So
yeah, I totally shoddy Wonder Woman. I'm just throwing that out there.
Please don't do Wonder Woman.
Why? Wait, you don't like Patty Jenkins? You don't like Patty Jenkins?
Pick a better Patty Jenkins movie.
Tell me what to
right. I think Brandon, the point is that I think at the beginning of this podcast we discussed that at least one of us shouldn't have seen it. Like there needs to be one person who hasn't seen the movie.
Fine.
Yeah.
I'm a safe bet because if most of these movies I haven't seen. But Wonder Woman I've seen a couple times, so let's not.
A couple.
We've all seen Wonder Woman.
As much as I love it when my fucking movie crumbles in on itself and becomes a Final Fantasy cutscene in the last act.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
You know, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, boys, it was a pleasure. Caleb, you want to sign us off?
Whoa, Patty Jenkins did
Thank you for listening.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Monster would be great. Good point. Brandon.
Let's do Monster.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next week. As always, this is Caleb, John Cushing, and Josh and Brandon. Please stay safe and much love to everybody.